Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And as the title suggests, I built a computer for the first time. I haven't used a Windows computer, I think, since high school, 10 years ago. So this was definitely a challenge for me, and I'm making the switch from Mac to PC. As far as the build list goes, I really had no idea what parts would suit me well. So I hit up my good friend Kawa, and he suggested that I get these parts, and then he also opted to teach me how to build a PC for the first time. So now that I had all the parts, it was time to throw it all together. I'm gonna say this is not a DIY tutorial on how to build a PC, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I built it. Kawa just guided me through the process, and I can honestly say that I did about 95% of the work. So I hope you enjoy the video. All right, so as for the parts list, everything that I use will be in the description below, and you can actually pick up everything from Micro Center. So that is super cool. So after I got everything unboxed, it was then time to take the motherboard and start plugging stuff in. I decided to plug in the RAM first. I had a little issue with the side tabs, but Kawa was able to walk me through and get them plugged in correctly. From there, I then moved on to installing the Intel chip. And this was kind of difficult. I kind of thought that I was gonna break it with the little tab thing that like kind of shoots out, and then you lift it up and then you close it in. I thought I was gonna break it, but apparently that is just completely normal.
All right, yeah, push that down. No, push that lever down. No, lever there, yeah, right there. No, this one. Push that down and over. Yep, and then lift up. Sick. So now, take this guy. It's really important to make sure that you have the chipset right on the right direction. You see the two tabs on the bottom and the tab on the top? Now, those two tabs match those two tabs on the bottom.
Like this?
And you make sure they fill in the dents, and then wiggle it. Make sure, you mind if I do it?
Yeah.
So I just want to wiggle it. Okay. And you just fuck! Just fucking get it!
I just eat!
Yeah. And then you push that down. Okay, and then you take that tab and you go down outside and then drag it in. It feels like it sucks. Yep. Yeah, it feels like it sucks.
After that, I opted to install the SSDs. The SSDs that I'm running is a 1 and a 2 terabyte SSD for a grand total of 3 if you can do math. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, I do videography, so obviously 3 terabytes is not going to be enough. I have 20 terabytes of external hard drive space that I back up all my projects to once I'm done editing. And when I'm editing a project, it lives on a 5 terabyte external SSD. So my workflow is I move the footage to the 5 terabyte SSD, I edit it on there. Once I'm done with that project, I then export it, and then I move the entire project to one of my hard drives. With everything installed, it was then time for the case. The case that I opted to go with was the LIANLI case. I opted for a all black case, and I just have one light in there. I didn't want a whole bunch of bullshit RGB, HDTV fucking lighting in my PC, as it's already bad enough that I have a light up keyboard and 2 monitors. So I kind of wanted a more professional looking setup for my tower. So the first thing that I installed was the LIANLI cooler, which I mounted up to the top. And this thing has 3 fans in it for a total of 6 fans. 2 fans in the front of the case, 1 fan in the rear, and then 3 up top. So with the cooler now installed, I moved the entire tower on its side, and I went to install the motherboard. This is pretty simple, as you just kind of line up the motherboard with the holes that are in the case, and then you just screw it in. It's pretty self-explanatory. I then installed the cooler on the Intel, and I kind of did a cross pattern. Like if you've ever tightened like a wheel on a car, how you don't tighten like, 1, 2, 3, 4, you kind of go in like an X pattern, and that's how I tightened it. So it was then time to install the graphics card, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't install this. I tried to, and I couldn't really line it up, and I had Kawa do it before I fucking broke something in my PC. All right, so now that I had everything in the PC, it was time to move on to the very last thing, which was power. Instead of mounting the MSI power in the tower right away, I decided to plug everything in first. That way, if I didn't get boot first try, I wouldn't have to then unscrew the power, check all the cables, see what I fucked up at, and it just made my life a whole lot easier. And I actually got boot first try, so that was super sick. I'm not a complete idiot.
This might work.
So after I got Windows installed on it, I then went back, screwed in the power supply, and then I sort of dealt with the cable management. And the LIANLI case has some excellent cable management. As someone that has never ran cables before, this case is fucking awesome. So now that I built the PC, it was time to take it home and start doing some basic tests with it. Like I said, I'm a videographer, so downloading Adobe Premiere and just being able to see if it could handle some simple 4K footage was the first thing that I did. So as you can see here, I have Premiere open and I just dragged some 4K footage into the timeline. And before this on my Mac, I would have to render out the footage in order for it to play back. And as you can see here, I'm able to drop it straight into the timeline and just start editing it. So that's super sick. The next thing I did is I wanted to see how well it could export 4K footage. So I exported 40 minutes of 4K footage in just 8 minutes, and that's super good. And since it's a PC, I'm also able to game on it. The gaming that I used to do, it was always done on a OLED Steam Deck, which I actually sold for 700 bucks, and it paid for half of the computer. So that was super sick. As far as the games I was playing, it was a lot of early 2000s real-time strategy games, stuff like Dawn of War, but I think it was time to jump straight into traumatic experiences.
Down and keep it ground now!
Objective failed. Entry team, fall back and await further instructions.
Okay, enough about me sucking at first-person shooters, and real quick, I'm going to talk about the monitor setup behind me. The main monitor is just a 34-inch, 144 frames per second, 1080 monitor. So all the gaming that I'm doing is just in 1080, and that is completely fine with me. Eventually, I do want to get a little miniature 4K monitor that is either going to go underneath or on top of the monitor. That way when I'm editing 4K footage, I can actually watch the project in 4K as I'm editing it. And then have the main monitor be for all the timeline and all the extra windows that I need to run Premiere. Okay, now that I have the monitor settings out of the way, I'm going to talk about gaming performance on a 1080 monitor. The first game that I booted up that I wanted to see if it could run was Cyberpunk. I've owned Cyberpunk for about 2 years and I put it on my Steam Deck. It really didn't play too well. I mean, I could have played it, but it was gonna look like complete fucking dog shit. And I wanted to wait until I had an actual good PC to play it. The settings for Cyberpunk, I had all of the settings on max and I was averaging about 90 to 100 frames for pretty intense gunfighting. And I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, this isn't really a gaming PC and this is more an editing PC, but the fact that I'm able to play games on it is super sick. I also tested a wide variety of other games and it seems to play everything just fine. I'm not one of those people that really cares about crazy frames per second or hertz per second. As long as I'm able to play a game and it looks somewhat decent, that's all I really care about. So overall, I'm very happy that I made the switch to PC. Going through Windows is a little bit more confusing than Apple, but I'm sure within a month or two, I'll really have it down. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will catch you guys next time.